everybody, welcome back to another episode of Come and Brew. I'm Greg and welcome to my garage/brewery. It's a little messy, but I'm glad to have you over today. This episode is going to be our coverage of, our overview of the 2014 National Homebrewers Conference that we went to up in Michigan just recently. It's going to have an interview with Beechum and Denny, a couple of homebrew legends. And then afterwards we're going to come back and have another visit with our own Pete Walden. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working here on a batch of all-grain American Pale Ale that I've been working on for a little while, tweaking that is. And so hopefully everything turns out well. Alright, thanks for coming back and enjoy your show.
NHC is the national conference for homebrewing enthusiasts put on by the American Homebrewers Association since 1978. This year it took place in Grand Rapids, Michigan. There were numerous vendors, sponsors, attendees, seminars and speakers, demos, and plenty of great beer and great times for everyone. This was our first time to attend, and we managed to speak with several of our current and future vendors, and we spent a little time with Randy Mosier, Denny, Conn, and Beechum, and Stan Hieronymus. We hope their words will inspire and enlighten you.
Safety glasses on. We're ready for heavy-duty drinking now. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers indeed, Denny. For many of you, if you don't know who that is, that's Denny Conn. We got to meet him at the convention, and he was a really great guy. He was really fun to hang out with, and so was Beechum. He's another really well-known homebrewer. And these two guys got together and did their mad science that they wanted to do, and they wrote a new book. Well, we met with them, and they told us about it, and we just found out how things are going for them right now. Let's go ahead and check that out. Cheers. What's upcoming for you with the Experimental Brewing book? We wanted to find out a little bit more about that because we'd love to have it in our shop, and we would also just find out how you guys met up and where this came from. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think he's the one who knows it.
Drew forgot how we met. You know, if it was my wife, I'd be upset, but it's Drew, so I'm not. We met when we at some conference. I think it was the one in Denver. A friend that I had gone to the conference with and I were in the shuttle to the hotel, and just as the door was about to shut and take off, this crazy man jumped in and said, "Hi, I'm Drew," and I kind of went, "Okay." And it turns out we'd met on forums before, but I didn't recognize the name right away.
Well, the problem is you're on so many forums that's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true. About eight forums a day, but. So, and then we both ended up on the AHA governing committee together and formed a real friendship. I had been talking to various publishers about trying to get a book deal for several years, and things kept falling through. Whereas at the same time, Drew was writing too many books to maintain a sane marriage and lifestyle. So when the offer came up for he got the offer for experimental homebrewing, and contacted me to see if I'd like to co-author, and it was right up my alley because experimenting is pretty much what I've always been about. So the book, the initial thrust of the book that the publisher wanted was kind of like radical brewing with a bunch of wild and wacky stuff, things like that. Yeah. And Drew is the master of wild and wacky.
Yeah, I mean, it's my thing, but the problem is, you know, you've already got radical brewing, and as far as I'm concerned, you can't out wacky Randy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
And there's no reason to. I mean, he's taken it a long way. So we really kind of had to come to a whole new angle and like chip away at things. And finally, I think we broke it down on the notion of when you say experimental, what do you mean? And the way the publisher had been viewing it was, oh, experimental means wacky. It means, you know, throwing odd ingredients into the beer and making new, you know, wonderful things. And that's half the book is that. But the other thing that experimental means is science. Now, we both have scientific backgrounds. You know, big surprise, homebrewers, scientific backgrounds. Fairly certain if we looked out here at the conference and we took a poll, you would probably find 85% of everybody here is technically inclined somehow. And so we decided, okay, experiments to me means science. And so the other half of the book is all science. And the idea is that, you know, we have, you know, all these great questions that float around. You know, if you spend as much time on forums as Denny and I do, you always see them. It's like, hey, can I use olive oil in my beer instead of aeration? You know, what about HSA? Oh, you know, I really splashed the hell out of my wort. Did I ruin my beer? Or, you know, what's this and what's that? And And you get these truisms that are built up. You get these, myths that are built, or processes that, if you don't do this my way, then you're doomed. Your beer will be forever tainted, and send it to me and I'll dispose of it for you properly. And so we said, let's get people thinking about, how do I come to a decision about that myself? And so really a good portion of the book is devoted to what we've been pitching as Mr. Wizard, or if you're of a certain generation, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Meet Click and Clack of NPR's Car Talk at the pub and have a couple of beers. And, talk science and...
Don't brew like my brother.
Yeah. Don't brew like the hippie.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I have always, because I'm basically lazy, although I say pragmatic, I don't like wasting time on stuff that doesn't pay back in terms of better beer. So I have always been about doing experiments to find out if the effort you're taking is really, really worth it, in terms of making your beer better. So that's kind of where we went with this book. It's like, look, well, we refer to it kind of like as the anti-how to brew, because we don't tell you how to brew. We don't say you should be doing this and be doing this and be doing this. What we say is, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Here are some experiments to determine which one of those is working out the best for you. And here are evaluation techniques so that you're not just saying, I just spent like 14 hours doing a triple decoction beer and god damn it, it's better. So we outline a series of experiments to find out how effective these processes that you're experimenting with really are. So you can decide for yourself and not go with what somebody is telling you.
Please note, this is not to say that we do not think that How to Brew is not a fine book.
Oh, no.
Of course not.
No, John is a dear friend, and I learned a lot from that book. Even when he was wrong, I learned. Sorry, John.
I love you, John. I'll see you at the pub next week.
That's right. So, that is really where this book has gone. It's like, we want to make sure that homebrewers learn what's effective for them. This is a hobby. It should be fun. You shouldn't be wasting your time with stuff. And that's really what we tried to get across in the book. There's a lot of back and forth dialogue in the book, just like Car Talk, that kind of thing, that we still can't believe our editor let us leave in there.
Yeah, read the book. Watch Denny and I make fun of each other.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
Well, and I think a really cool and exciting part of the whole experimental brewing thing is we lay out a lot of these basic experiments. Not as many as we wanted, because books apparently have to have some sort of length thing going to it.
Unfortunately.
And so what we're doing, as well as the book, is we're launching experimentalbrew.com. We actually launched it last year to start gathering ideas. But we're relaunching it later this year with the publication of the book, and we're going to encourage people to not only do the experiments that we have in the book and bring us the results, but also to create their own experiments, post them, and have other people do it. Because, let's face it, we all know that, science requires, very meticulous type of things. And homebrewers can be very meticulous, but most of us, it's woo! We don't have all the fancy equipment that you find in a brewery. I think the fanciest piece of equipment I have is a microscope, and that makes me way
You have a microscope?
I have a microscope. And I have it connected to my computer. And that's the fanciest that almost any homebrewer out there is going to get in terms of their equipment. So this is all what I refer to as kitchen science. And so with the kitchen science, we'll be able to answer questions only really if we get a lot of repetition of this stuff. So what we really want to do, and see people bring back to us, is those results of the experiments. So we can say, hey, look, I don't buy the fact that, John over in Cincinnati did this thing and got this result, so I'm going to redo it, and then I'm going to post my results. And what we start to see is, hey, we've got 30 results that say, no, this is a thing, and we got 10 results that say, this isn't a thing. And you kind of start to take that and shift it around.
We outline too how to do these experiments, and in terms of starting with a hypothesis that you're trying to prove, and then moving through the whole procedure and stuff like that, and ending up with analyzing your results, so that we don't leave people on their own just to perform these experiments willy-nilly.
Sure.
And while we don't try and tell people how to brew, we do talk about how we both brew, the equipment that we use. We show you how to build some of the equipment, like my cheap and easy mash tun, because if you're doing experiments, that might require you to conduct 2 mashes at once. And if you've got like a 3-tier system, you're not going to be going out and buying another one so you can do 2 mashes at once, right? So we try and give you the whole foundation to perform these experiments, as well as a framework to evaluate them when you're done.
But now here's the other part. We've talked a lot of science, right? But keep in mind,
there's crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so we didn't try out Randy, but we did have to bring in our own wacky touch, because that is the wacky side of experimental. And so, there's a good portion of the book is talking about, various ingredients and various techniques that we have. Come 2 days from now, we're going to give our talk, and we're actually going to do some live science at our talk and some live
wacky science.
Yeah. And we're going to show people some of the stuff like, I have a technique. We talk a lot in the book about using tinctures to, flavor your beer. Hey, look, I made my homemade vanilla extract, or I made the spice tincture. Usually the instructions for that are, pour XYZ amount of vodka into a jar with the spice and let that sit for 4 or 5 days, shake it up, strain, ta-da, tincture. Well, if you're a dummy like me, or incredibly lazy like me sometimes, you'll forget to do this ahead of time. And you'll come out and you go, oh, I need to serve this beer and I wanted to do this thing with it, or I taste the beer and it's got a flaw in it. Oh my God, I've got to do something to cover it up, but my guests are going to be here in an hour. So it turns out you can take a stainless steel whipping siphon, the thing that you go into Starbucks and you ask for whipped cream on top of your coffee, that thing, you can take that, make sure there's no dairy in it, pour the vodka in there, pour the spices in there, screw it down, charge it with nitrous, and then release it all at once, and pour out a brand new spice tincture. And you've done that.
Instantly infused.
That's really interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
So it's goofy stuff, but that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, it is.
That sounds great, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what we've done is we've taken all these. I mean, it's amazing how much we both are driven by being lazy. And I don't think that we're alone in that in the homebrew world.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
I mean, and even if you're not basically lazy, you may have kids, stuff like that. And so you want to save as much time as possible. So we've taken all these techniques that we've developed over the years to make our brew days easier and more effective, and kind of put them into the book as things you can use when you're doing your own experiments. I think that we both really enjoy helping people brew better and have more fun. I mean, and that's one of the things that we emphasize in this book over and over. It's a hobby. It's got to be fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong.
Well, great, guys. That sounds honestly like a fantastic book that's really going to do a lot for the standard homebrewer and the non-standard homebrewer. And anybody who really wants to get out there and start doing some things, they're going to learn from guys who have had so much experience.
Well, and you've got to find out what really works for you, and you listen to what other people say, but you don't believe it till you try it.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, guys, for meeting with us.
Pleasure,
we
Greg.
Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your NHC 2014.
I'm sure that we will.
All right,
also,
thanks.
we might want to plug when your thing is going to come out.
The book will be out in November of 2014, but it's available for pre-order now just about every place. Our publisher has a website called Q Bookshop. That's Q as in Porto, bookshop.com. You can get it from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Pretty much.
Get it on your Kindle, get it on your Nook.
Yep.
And you already have the website is already out there.
experimentalbrew.com. It's up there now. It's live. We've got a Facebook page also. But so if people want to read the results of experiments that have been done, or want to post the results of their own experiments or something else, go to our website and let's talk.
And if you want to find Denny and I online, other than on Facebook or anywhere else, you can always find us at the AHA Homebrewers Forum. We're both moderators there. We run around, we answer everybody's questions.
Yep.
And hey, we're always available to answer anything. Doesn't matter how silly it is.
That's right. And we may be the silly ones.
Hey y'all, Just getting my boil going here. And I've already got a pretty good sign, which is a hot break. And next up, Pete Walden is going to come out. He's going to tell you a little bit more about a hot break and how important it is to your brew.
Hey, welcome back to Pete's Extract Tips. Today we want to talk a little bit about some of the best practices that have been really successful with myself and some of the other brewers here within the club, and I'm talking about Texas Homebrew and Cap and Hair. But one thing I want to talk about is has to do with hot break and a full volume boil. A lot of times guys come in and they want to buy just kind of the baseline system, you know, as far as the smallest pot that they can afford and stuff like that, which is all great. But what a lot of people find out is that whenever they start getting into brewing and talking to people and actually having some experience in 2 or 3 brews, they start having some issues with either flavor or hop utilization and such as that. So what I've discovered is that a full boil is much more effective at eliminating a lot of these problems. One, you get better hop utilization, and you don't run into some problems with over caramelization of your wort during the boil process, which can introduce a lot of melanoidal flavors and just kind of just real caramely kind of esters and so forth that you may not want in that particular style of beer that you're brewing. So this has been a big success, going full volume boil, and also making sure that you don't overboil your beer. It's very good to have a nice slow rolling boil, but you don't want to overdo it. You can easily overheat your boil. You can have boil overs and so forth, but it's just kind of one of the best practices that we like to try to promote here. Full gallon boil, and then make sure that you get a really good hot break through your boil process. Now that's pretty much. A hot break is basically when the proteins in the wort start to collide and during the heat of the boil, and once they join together and kind of coagulate, they'll fall out, and then you'll get that foam drops, and you're back to boiling nice and easy and stuff. And one good thing too, if you're boiling in your kitchen on your stove, you want to really watch that. Firm cap also helps with that quite a bit, but just try to get a good moderate boil and try to do a full volume boil, and I guarantee you that it's going to make a difference.
Hey, I just finished my boil and I put my immersion chiller in and I started a whirlpool. The whirlpool is aimed at helping my flame out hops get the most that they can get into the wort. My immersion chiller has a whirlpool arm attached to it, and that is attached to a pump. And the pump might be an investment for a lot of people, but it's really helpful to get your chilling done faster, to get a good cold break, especially here in Texas. Speaking of cold break, in our next episode, Pete's going to come back around. He's going to have a little bit to say about cold break and chilling your beer. And we're also going to go back and cover more NHC material, including Randy Mosier, the author of Radical Brewing. Randy's got 2 new books coming out, Mastering Homebrew and A Beer for All Seasons. Randy was really cool. He had a lot to say, so it should be really interesting for everybody. And if we're lucky, we might be doing a little bit of radical brewing of our own here again. Otherwise, cheers, get out there and brew.
There's no emphasis was on red. On red.
Let me get my glove out. This is important.
Yeah.
This is important glove. Woo! Woo!
Johnny Red, not my mother. He's insane, but we all knew
He's a
that was
motherfucker.
the case. Look at the face.